Hello, good evening, and welcome to another episode of Build Paint Play. I'm Dave.
And I'm Jake. Thanks for joining us. Today, as a special guest, we have Eric from Eric's Hobby Workshop, who is the penultimate member, or the ultimate member of the Army Painter team, because at this point, I think we've had everybody on except for Eric. So
Finally getting Eric on. Hooray!
The ultimate. Make sure you tell the other guys that.
Yeah. Sure. We saved the best to last, so we're super excited to have you on and talk all things hobby that we usually do here. So quickly in the chat, I'm going to say hi to Scott, hi to Luis, hi to Josh. Welcome. Hold on. And Josh says it's like that our intro song is like Pavlov's dog. Or he feels like Pavlov's dog.
Yeah, that got me pumped up. That was fun.
Excellent. I think one of the things I'm really thinking about doing, actually, switching up the music a little bit. I really like the music, but I'm thinking of switching up and maybe commissioning Malev to write a specific tune for us.
Oh, cool.
I think it would be pretty sweet.
I'm on board with that. Nice.
Okay, we'll have to start talking to him. We also have Michael Baker in the chat. Good to see you again, Mike. We did some painting lessons with Mike and his family out in at San Diego Comic-Con. So very cool to have you joining us again. Jake, it's been a week.
It has been a week indeed. I haven't done a ton of hobbying. Well, that's not true. I've done a bunch of hobbying. I haven't done a lot of miniature stuff.
Okay.
So
Your
first up, my wife and I went and saw Deadpool versus Wolverine. Fantastic. 4 thumbs up. My wife also really enjoyed it.
Awesome.
I got now Dave's not gonna have any idea what this is, but hopefully Eric does.
Okay. Very cool.
This is the new
Wait. I'm gonna guess that they're stamps.
Yes, they are.
From a game called Dungeons and Dragons.
They were limited edition, and with this year being the 50th anniversary, they did and I had no idea about it. A buddy of mine apparently was at Gen Con, and they had these at the Wizards of the Coast booth, I guess. So He took a photo of them, and I was like, those are super cool. I wish I had known about them. And I was in my local post office, and I mentioned it. And I was like, is this something you have? And she's like, no, we don't. She's like, but I think I can order them. And then she got me like a couple of sheets. So I have a sheet here. I took a sheet to work. Because we have to send stuff back to like Games Workshop. We have like correspondence occasionally. So I'm like, I'll take some stamps. Like I just thought they were really cool.
Fantastic.
There's so Luis showed me something new today. So apparently, you guys familiar with the series Love, Death, and Robots?
Yes.
Okay, so it's like a bunch of standalone episodes where they take like one thing and they just kind of do the episode about it. Mm-hmm. So Luis was saying that there's a new series coming to Amazon Prime, I think. Luis, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's Amazon Prime, and it's from the people behind Love, Death, and Robots, and they're going to do 15 different fandoms, and one of the ones that's part of that series is there's a Dungeons and Dragons one, I think there's a Star Wars one, there's like something else, and there's a Warhammer one. And from the bit of the trailer that they showed, it looks like it's either the same artist or the same people that were behind the did you guys see the Astartes project?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like it's part of that. Again, they just show you like, it's like a 30-second promo, and you see like 6 seconds of it, and I was like, that looks familiar. So I'm hoping it's more of that, or at least like the rest of the story. But I was stoked, like Luis made my day, that there's going to actually be like a fully animated episode on this series that's going to be all like Warhammer 40,000. So
yeah, that sounds cool.
That is super cool. Just quickly, Stephen Ryder, Tabletop Super Show says, I have to go into work and wanted to drop in, leave a like, and say hello. Thank you very much.
Just a drive-by like. I appreciate that.
Liking. Excellent. So if everybody else could maybe like hang around and watch some of the show, which would be
yeah, for sure.
So hit that like button. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, and if you guys really want to help us, you can share us on a channel where you do this kind of stuff, and hopefully that will bring us even more people. So
yeah, that'd be great. But
yeah, that was it for my hobby stuff. I also did. I played a couple games.
Oh my goodness!
But but yeah, I didn't get any chance to like build or hobby or play or anything or paint.
Right. Build paint. But you got some.
Yeah. I did plenty of playing.
That's good. I realized that I asked you that question a little bit too early. What we should have done is actually said, talked about who Eric is.
Sure. Well, you were really excited, Dave. I mean,
I was really excited, but then I realized, then we'll throw to Eric and we'll talk about his hobby. And it's like, actually, let's explain who Eric is first. We'll get that done. As you can see, Eric, we're nothing but professional.
100%.
Everything
I love it.
perfectly scripted. So, Eric Locke, Eric's Hobby Workshop. You have Eric's Hobby Workshop is your YouTube channel,
Yes.
where you do a whole bunch of terrain building, miniature painting, and talking about your love for the tabletop wargaming hobby. Correct?
Exactly right. Yeah.
Nailed it, Dave. Nailed it.
We can all go home now. But,
We started off shaky, but Dave stuck the landing.
Yeah, fantastic. 9 out of 10 would do again. But so let's then next go into I'm getting shaky again. But let's next go into Eric. Have you had the opportunity to do any hobby over the last couple of weeks? I know that you've
Yes.
not
So
been a bit.
as we were talking about before we started, I've been quarantining a little bit. Like I actually just before the stream, I was sleeping right here in my workshop, so I didn't get my wife and kids sick. So I've been doing some hobby. I've got a video coming out soon where I'm making a Victorian sort of buildings, and that should be fun. And then I've also been working on a Dark Mechanicum army for Horus Heresy.
Oh, awesome!
Which is I don't know, that's something like my 27th army or something. It's like the least called for necessary project of all time, but you know, sometimes you see the models and you just got to do something with them. And yeah, so I've been working on those things. And then I've also, I've got a lot of irons in the fire all the time. I got a Titan I've been chipping away at, and some other things as well.
Awesome. I have to say, as somebody who loves the Adeptus Mechanicus and the Mechanicum, that a Dark Mechanicum or Dark Mechanicus army is certainly called for.
Yeah,
I'm excited to see what sort of fun changes you've made, what fun conversions you've done.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm still a little bit confused. Like I have the Horus Heresy rulebook for the Mechanicum, but it's like a textbook. It's like impenetrable to my mind. I need to find some sort of jumping off point to like dig my teeth into it before I can really understand how to build a list properly and stuff like that. So it's still early days, but I'm having fun with it. I can show you guys like a sort of test color scheme I've done on this guy so far. It's, I went for the sort of black as opposed to the red, and I'm pretty happy with it so far. It still has a lot of weathering to do and stuff like that, but that's going to be
kind of like a brassy top to the.
Yeah, I went for like a brassy top. Cool. And just black and silver, and a lot of skulls, and we'll see where it evolves. There's a lot of like digital files out there that I'm been toying around with, but it's funny with Mechanicum, like people tend to make them so spindly, and I'm far from a 3D printing wizard, so there's those two things don't mesh very well. So
right,
you got to kind of find the middle ground and find what works.
Yeah. Find the things that can be a bit sturdier.
Yeah,
I'm just glad they're finally releasing all that stuff in plastics. Like,
oh yeah,
when it like resin, like spindly resin models are like the worst. The only thing worse than spindly resin models is spindly metal models. Like, plastic is where it's at. That is all I want.
Plastic's pretty good. I like a metal model, but some models just have to be plastic. Like all my old Goblin Fanatics are just a stump of chain, and I like a lot of them have like a big cake of glue where I tried to glue them when I was 12 years old, just holding them for an hour trying to glue a piece of chain to a piece of chain when the guy's weight is supported by a chain.
Right.
It's never going back together. It's like it's too small to pin. It's over. Yeah, that would be better in plastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. Oh, that's cool. Nice. I think what we'll do is jump into our usual.
Dave, did you do any hobby?
I did do some hobby. Even though my mum was in town from Australia for 2 weeks, so visiting, she headed back home Sunday. So Sunday and Monday evenings, I've been doing some painting, doing some typing, getting some stuff happening. But yeah, I'm pretty excited about the stuff I've been working on. So let me pull that up. And the first thing is sharing the screen, pressing the window. Here we go. But first up, before we talk about what I've been working on, we'll talk about our sponsor, the Army Painter. They're our season sponsors, season 5. They're also, Eric is part of the Army Painter factory team. So again, we'll talk about that a little bit later. But one of the things they've got going on is the Army Painter has challenged a bunch of folks to paint up the dragon that comes in the enormous Wargamer sort of collection paint set.
Yeah, the new Wargamer set.
Yep. So that's pretty cool, crazy thing to see, because this dragon.
Oh yeah.
Very nice. He's a lot bigger than I thought he was.
Yeah, he's huge. I mean, compared to like a Malstrain Gene Stealer, much larger.
Yeah, I thought he was like a quarter that size.
But no, it's definitely very cool. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to be painting up one for the challenge, and I think I'm going to start with some spray cans though, rattle cans, and go with like a purple and teal, almost maybe magenta and teal kind of look to it. So go through that synthwave thing going on. And I've been thinking that maybe what we'll do is in a couple of weeks, once I've got it painted up, that we'll give it away or do a giveaway on the channel.
Nice.
We'll work something out. Because we're getting close
I'll see if I can get my hands on one of these from Cat when I'm at the booth
at Nova. Yeah,
in a week.
The crazy thing. So it's actually like a high impact polystyrene. It comes on the sprues, and there are a lot of options there as well for like fireball.
Oh, that's dope.
Flamey goodness. But I went for the fairly simple, just the tongue.
I like that.
So excited to get started on that. Hopefully I'll have some progress by next week. But yeah, very excited and thankful that Army Painter invited me to join in on that. Are you painting up one, Eric?
I've got one, yeah, and I'm going to put a, well, it's between a High Elf Lord and a Chaos Lord on it. Probably High Elf. I already got a Chaos Dragon. So, yeah, I'm going to trim down those spikes on the back, put a little saddle on there.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. I've got it all planned out. I've had one for a little while, actually.
Yeah.
But I wasn't allowed to talk about it for a while. So, and I got to be careful what I say here.
Yeah. We'll try not to ask you too many deep and probing questions when we get to that part. But cool. Moving on. So yeah, wanted to talk about the some super cool stuff that I've been checking out. So these folks, Roxville, Bad Wolf Miniatures, and Victor TCDR, have been posting on Instagram these great conversions they've been doing with like super chunky armor and pressure suits, and it's really been sort of grabbing my attention. So I'm excited about those. The Roxville over here, the torso here is from the Leagues of Votan models.
Oh.
And the legs, I think, are from the Corpse Grinder cult.
Yep.
Dude, who took these photos? Rob Liefeld? They're all pouches and no feet.
I cropped them so that I could put them into an Instagram post myself. But,
Nice.
Yeah, loads of pouches. This one here from Bad Wolf Miniatures, the torso is from the Squat Prospectors from Necromunda. I can't remember exactly where the legs are from.
That Power Fist is from the Votan dudes too. It's from the Power Suit guys.
Oh, this one?
Yeah, I think so.
You sure? I think
so.
I think it might actually be from the Squat Prospectors as well. And this one, the torso is Squat Prospectors. The legs are Goliath legs.
Okay.
But this guy's got an awesome has a grenade launcher with a long barrel. So it's just really targeting those grenades.
Nice.
But
that makes sense.
Yeah, beautiful stuff. I've been inspired by those. So here are some that I created myself. Yeah, the torsos for these are from the Squat Prospectors. The arms, the Squat Prospector arms as well.
That guy on the left is very Lex Luthor in his armor.
Right.
Because it's like green with like lots of like ridges, and then like he's bald like that. That could be Lex Luthor.
Yeah. Well, the colors will change quite a bit. Actually, I'm well on the way with those guys, but yeah, I went with the Goliath legs because I had some of those lying around, and then just had some fun with them. Those are
great.
The guy on the right there he's got that power fist, and he's holding one of the squat helmets with the big face.
Oh yeah.
So I figure these guys are basically an external ship mechanic crew.
Come on, dude! You gotta drill out that barrel.
I'm gonna paint a circle in
No.
there. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna paint a dab of black. But yeah, sometimes I do, sometimes I don't.
When it's that big, you could use one of the bigger drill bits. Like that thing is chunky.
Where do you stand on this, Eric? Drill?
Yeah, I drill when I remember to. You know, like there's certain things I won't drill, like a rotary gun. Like, get out of here! I'm not drilling 8 barrels on one gun.
Right.
But no, I usually drill. And I tend to just do like a shallow divot, and then we paint it black, and it's got enough of the geometry that it works.
Right. That's cool. That's fair. It's kind of right in the middle.
Yeah, but I've been called out for it a bunch of times in comments. Like sometimes I'll go back and drill way later, but it's never too late to drill.
This is true. Obviously, it's always easier at the start, but yeah. Like,
Dave, what are you using these guys for? Like Necromunda?
No, they're going to be in my. They're just going to be inquisitorial henchmen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, one of my favorite things about the inquisitorial henchman profile is that it's like they've got henchman guns and henchman weapons.
Yeah, it's a dude.
It doesn't matter what the hell it is.
Just anything. Yeah.
It could be a power fist. It could be like a screwdriver. It doesn't matter. It's all the same stat. So yeah, I could put those guys on the table. I've started painting them. So for the suits, the pressure suits on the left, I started with dark plum, highlighted up with some wyvern fury, and then mixed a bit of bright ivory in for the highlights, and for the collars around there next to padded collars. Normally, I'd paint those like a burgundy or a red, but because I had that sort of plum color going on the pressure suit, I wanted to switch it up a little bit. So I started with mahogany and mixed with some topaz skin, and mixed in some of the skulky yellow from Two Thin Coats, and then mixed in some ice yellow for the. Actually, I think I might have gotten straight ice yellow for the final highlights on it there.
It looks great. You know what I like about the lighter color is it looks kind of like a rough color. You know, like.
Oh, okay. Yep.
So it's got that kind of inquisitorial, playing with those styles from yesteryear thing that it's
right.
touching on. At least that's what I'm getting from it. I think it looks great.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you. I've done a little bit more painting on them. I painted on all of the dark. I'm staying with the white armor, so just got to do some chipping and that kind of thing on there. And now I painted all of the everything else that's going to not be those colors. I painted it all black, so I can work on my metallics and work on my sort of browns and leathers and that kind of thing. But yeah, very happy with how they're coming along. And again, it's just there's no reason to be doing these guys, but they're
fun. very like Harkonnen looking.
Very what?
Okay.
Harkonnen looking.
Okay. Yeah, there's a bit of that. I think if I'd done them in a black.
Yeah, if you've seen the newer movies, like those look like Harkonnen soldiers. They look great.
Right. Yeah, giving them all like machetes and left the guns off and going with that could have worked. But yeah, so I'm excited about how they're going. Anyway, so that's been my hobby. Yeah, cool. Sorry, just going to quickly jump back into the chat. We've got Scott is asking the question. I think when we mentioned Nova, Scott is asking the question: is BuildPaintPlay at Nova in any official capacity?
I mean, we could be.
I will officially be there. Like,
yeah,
Jake will be there, and I will be there.
Yeah,
Eric will be there. Many of our guests for the next like 4 or 5 weeks will be there. So yeah, kind of. But yep, you're just hanging out, Jake.
I'm working for Army Painter the whole week.
Okay, there we go. Eric, you'll be hanging out and working.
Yeah, I'll be at the Army Painter booth, and I'll be doing some other stuff, and just it's my first time in Nova, so I am going in blind a little bit, but I'm sure I'll have a great time.
Nice. Yeah, it should be lots of fun. I'll be working as the head judge for the Capital Palette. Apparently at the moment, so last year we had 668 entries for the Capital Palette competition. At the moment, with a week and a half to go before the show, we've got 610 entries registered. So we're thinking that we're going to be up around that 850, 900, maybe even pushing 1,000 entries. So it's going to be kind of crazy busy. We're getting we've got 2 new judges joining the team, Andy Wardle and Steve Garcia. So we're excited about that. And then we have the returning team from last year. So it's going to be cool. But we're using a new system, a new app that allows us to judge during the show rather than having to do one specific, like everybody sit down on Saturday night for 8 hours and judge all the entries. So we had to do it at a different pace during the show, which would be nice. But so that's what I'll be focused on at the show, and then occasionally hanging out at the Game Envy booth and wandering around. Maybe getting in a game of Combat Patrol with Phil, the Glacial Geek. We'll see how that goes. But yeah. Anyway, enough about what we're doing at Nova. We'll also say hi to Mark Henry from Goblin's Hut, Richard Ralph. I don't know whether we said hi before. John Steining as well. So lots of folks joining us there. But the next thing, I think, Eric, we're going to jump in and talk a bit more about Eric's Hobby Workshop.
Cool. Let's do it.
Excellent. So as I do with all of our guests, I said, hey, can you send me like 10 or 12 cool photos of stuff that you've got going on? And this was one of my favorites that you sent through. So Horus Heresy, you've been a fan of it for a while. How long have you been working on Heresy armies?
Since 2 summers ago, I guess. I did pretty much right after they launched it. I'd been working my way through the novels because I don't know if you know this, but in YouTube comments, people can be a little bit pedantic. So I wanted to make sure I knew all the lore, So I took on that task shortly after starting my YouTube channel that I should read all the Horus Heresy books, and I kind of lost steam somewhere in there in the 20s. Right. And I skipped ahead to the Siege of Terra, and I don't know. I love it. It's awesome. And this particular photo I'm super happy with because it's like I did some photo stacking. So I've got a bunch of different focal lengths going on here. So the guys in the back are in focus, and so are the guys in the front. And actually, looking at it now, this is there's some like weird artifacts of like blur in between the units, but nobody would notice that unless I just pointed it out, right? So you don't have to put the mouse on it. But yeah, no, I was really happy with this photo because this was sort of the culmination of my army coming together, and I was really happy with how that all went together. A lot of these are not Games Workshop models. They're like, they're conversions with some true scale bodies. So, okay. I mean, I still had to have the Games Workshop models to pull off the conversions, but it's really sort of, this is my most customized army probably. And I'm pretty proud of it. The guy on the rock right in the center there is, of course, the War Master himself, or the War Master now, but Abaddon. Yep. Is Abaddon the War Master? I just said I should never screw up the lore. And here I go calling Abaddon the War Master himself in a Horus Heresy photo. Damn.
Yeah, so in the Horus Heresy photo, the like that you're talking about his dad, Horus.
No, of course. Yeah, I'm cooked now. Yeah. I'll never live that one down.
But now in the 40K, yes. Yes.
Yeah, I'm not sure what I was trying to say there, but no, that is my 30K Abaddon, the conversion that I made, and I'm pretty happy with him. And of course the tactical rock, you gotta. Yeah. So yeah, I just thought this was a really cool photo. It's probably my favorite photo I've ever taken in my work. I don't take a lot of still photos. Okay. But I'm happy with this one. So yeah.
Yeah.
So the guys on the front left, what are those despoilers or?
Those are despoilers. Yeah. There's a blog out there called Warpstone Flux that I copied the optimized loadout from, where the guy says you should take 2 power axes, and in my game testing so far, that's a good loadout. That's one of the things that I always struggle with, is the catch-22 of like, I don't know what to give my guys until I played, and I don't know. I can't play until I built my guys and have an army to play. So it's like I never. So if I find a blog where somebody just suggests a good loadout, I'm always super thrilled to just go with somebody else's recommendation. Especially if I think it'll look cool. Like, I'm happy to give 2 of my guys power axes. That's awesome. So yeah, so those guys have actually put in some good work for me. They're good at holding objectives. The guy in the very front, he's a little bit out of focus, but he's got the crest from the kit, but has got it like turned 90 degrees, so it's like a mohawk. That guy looks pretty cool.
You did the vertical crest instead of the horizontal crest.
Yeah, and he's got a power fist, so he looks very like very intimidating, very cool. Yeah.
Are these the Terminators on the right here? The Tartarus Terminators here? Are they
Yeah, so they're they're from Tortuga Bay Miniatures, the bodies.
Right, I was gonna say
they're Tartaros bodies. But at the time I ordered them, I actually ordered them way before I started with Horus Heresy. I ordered them to true scale some Black Templar Terminators. And so I didn't actually know the difference between Cataphracti and Tartaros at the time. So they're kind of, I call them Tartofracti. They're like a little bit in between. Like they're made with the Cataphracti bits that come in the starter set, and then the Tartaros bodies from Tortuga. But I actually really like the silhouette of them. I like the proportions. I'm super happy with those. So yeah, they're unique to my army, and it's just me not knowing what I was doing basically when I was building them. But I'm happy with them. So
I think they look cool. The line of the top of the armor.
Yeah, exactly.
Really beautifully with the shoulder pads.
Yeah, you can see like the Justarin, the elite Terminators in black in the center, have more of that traditional Cataphracti silhouette where it's more boxy. Yeah. And that looks great too, but I like a lot how it's a little bit
the hybrid dudes you have up front, they have the same silhouette as like an Imperial Knight. It's like that.
Shoulder
pad into the carapace, back into the shoulder pad. Like they have that
right.
bell curve almost, but
it's not
as pronounced, but it gives you that same kind of smooth line.
And that literally just comes from trying to build them and trying to think of the guy inside. And it's like, okay, his head is here. Is he like, we got to bring it down a little bit, so he's not like dislocated. And even still, I think there's a line in it might be like the Night Lords trilogy where they talk about when you're wearing a suit of Terminator armor, you feel hunched over and you feel like you're about to run forward. And I think that that one throwaway line does a lot of work in making the Terminator armor cooler to me in my mind, because there's definitely a little bit of joint dislocation going on in some of the sculpts, but you can't go wrong with that big blocky silhouette. I love it.
Yeah, no, they're definitely very cool. These guys look great. Love it.
There you go.
And I wanted to start off with that one because then these guys also appear on this photo that you sent through.
Oh yeah. By coincidence, those guys are out there too. That is the trench board that I have been working on for the past year, and it is semi-complete, I would say. So it's ready to play on, but not every part of it is at its completely finished state. But I'm really, really happy with it. It's the first time that I've made a lot of standalone pieces, and sort of my ethos for the longest time has been modularity. Gives you more combinations, gives you more options, gives you more flexibility. But this is the first time I've made like a table,
like a fixed
table. And as you can see, I mean, there's a line sort of in the bottom third here, because 3 sections that clip together. And then even still, I can't resist doing a little bit of modularity. Like these dead forests you can move them around anywhere, and all the knife rests, with the barbed wire on them, can be moved around as well, right. Which makes it a lot more playable, a lot easier to store without snapping everything to bits. And I'm pretty proud of that one. That's one of the biggest and heaviest projects that I've done. So.
Excellent. And cool. I'm sure you're planning to play some other games on it. What sort of
so
on that one?
I'm definitely going to play Heresy on it. I'm definitely going to play 40K on it, and I want to dabble in a little bit of historicals. There's much fewer World War I historicals than there are World War II, from what I gather, and plus I don't have anyone to really play those games with. But my brother was actually telling me last night that he's where did he get it from? He found some solo play rules for 40K where and was it from Goonhammer? It might be from Goonhammer. And you roll 2d6 each turn, and then enemy units just sort of drop, and then they have sort of a rudimentary AI flowchart of what they'll do. Like they'll always charge if they can, and etc. And so it's a solo play thing that I thought I wanted to try out. But I also am really interested in trying out Trench Crusade at some point.
Right.
I know there's a lot of
mention that in the chat. Yeah.
There's a lot of buzz around that, and it looks like a really incredible aesthetic and cool game. It's not completely released in its entirety from what I can understand yet, so I'm not I would love to get the wheels rolling on that in a more serious capacity, but I've done a little bit of Googling, and I'm honestly a little bit confounded about what the state of release of the game is right now. It looks like I can the official minis are not quite out yet, and then there's a lot of people in the same aesthetic who are, oh yeah, look at that, that's gorgeous. God, yeah, I love the proportions that they've gone for. Just a much more realistic.
Yeah.
Dave, what's the one that's on in front of you with the pink dudes? Is that Yafsiga?
Oh, that's Sludge.
Oh, Sludge, right.
Sludge from Sean Sutter.
I was gonna say, you could also play Sludge on here because it's got kind of like a
very
diesel
much
punky World War I vibe.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, definitely.
That'd be very cool. And what was the other one that I just picked up a booklet for?
Is that Turnip 28?
Maybe? Well, no, Turnip. I've gotten into Turnip, the skirmish game, which is called Swill. So that's actually what I'm building Victorian houses for. For some Turnip skirmish stuff. But no, I was thinking of it's another trench game. And it's like a cooperative game. God, I don't know. My mind is just leaking right now, so it's not coming to me.
But I think this looks cool. It's a table, a trench table when done well, looks fantastic, and it can only really be done well as a fixed table, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's the
Really
same
tough.
problem as wargaming rivers, right? Like,
Right.
If you have your river above grade with sort of a taper and a dike on either side, there's only so many rivers that flow like that. You know, the best case is to really have it dug in. And no, I agree with you.
Definitely. And it looks very cool. And then we'll run through some of the other sort of 40K, maybe not 40K specific, but 40K connected tables that you've done, or sci-fi, I guess.
Yeah, but yeah.
This, of course, is one that worked for a whole bunch of stuff, but with your Catachans on there.
Yeah. This piece is a waterfall that I made with my brother before I even started my channel back in 2015 or something. I think we built this together. And this was kind of the first big ambitious terrain project that I took on in my adult life. And, you know, I had so much fun doing it. That waterfall is made of silicone caulking. And, like, you know, nowadays I look at it and I see all the different layers of foam are still quite visible. But I do think it held up quite well. And I love to sort of pull it out and put it in the corner. It's actually quite big and quite unwieldy for games, but I love to have it in the corner of a game. And this photo kind of illustrates the point that, like, all of my projects are cumulative, you know? So it's like I painted these Catachans last summer, and they look twice as good on a jungle waterfall that I made, you know, 10 years prior, 8 years prior. So it's kind of the fun thing about terrain is you can recontextualize it all the time, get new uses of it, you know, elevate your minis to another level by having a setting to put them in. So that's kind of why I do what I do, I guess.
Yeah. No, that's cool. I think one of the things that I've sort of often said is that for big battle games, like big games of Warhammer, or fantasy battles, that kind of thing, Kings of War, you don't need a lot of terrain on the table to sort of, you just need a couple of things to set the scene. And you've got lots of open space to be able to move your army around. But the smaller the game becomes, the more terrain, not necessarily that you need, but the more the terrain improves the setting or improves the look.
Yeah. I mean, I'm of the opinion terrain improves everything. So, I mean, even in a game like Warhammer Fantasy where you need a big open table, put a whole bunch of terrain up against one side. You know, have like a backdrop, have a city over there with a wall, have a jungle, have a, you know, they said, actually, I think Mini Wargaming has been doing a lot of that with their battle reports, where they have the one fixed camera and they'll do like a big setup of terrain just sort of in behind. That's not part of the game, but I just think it adds something. I love the terrain, you know.
Yeah.
As you could probably imagine.
Yeah, and probably a handy thing for doing a channel about it. If you didn't love it, it would.
I feel like this would be totally different if you're like, oh god, I hate terrain. I'm so sick of it.
Oddly enough, I mean, I don't seem to get sick of this. So.
I think the big one for me is like, so terrain. We collectively, and I'll use the royal we like miniature war games. So if we're playing a big game like 40K or Heresy, something we're playing like 2,000 points, 3,000 points, 4,000 points, you still have terrain on the board. And if you're playing a small game like Kill Team, there's still miniatures on the board. The difference is that some of the miniatures are more terrain features. Like it's still miniatures. It's still tons of, you know, built and painted miniatures that are on the table. It's just some of them are like a waterfall and rocks and a building instead of being like, oh, a tank and 50 skeletons. It's just different stuff. But yeah, I mean, Dave and I talk all the time about like a miniature, a nicely painted miniature on a bad base never looks as good as an okay painted miniature on a great base. You're like, oh, the whole miniature's done. It just doesn't look finished. And terrain's the same way. If you're playing, if you have two beautiful armies on the table and there's like a Coke can and a pile of books as your terrain, you're going to be like, dude, like this just doesn't look right. You have to have that cool terrain to, you know, dress everything up and have the whole set look nice and have everything seem like really cool and kind of grounded and connected. That's what you want.
I totally agree. I totally agree.
Absolutely. Let me go back to there.
I can smell the hot knife that you used on that last board. I can smell the.
Okay.
It's a distinctive smell for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, this one is still actually from one of my videos where the Imperial Knight is like walking in behind this factory here, and these guys are sort of sheltering. I just thought this was a cool photo. I don't know.
That's cool.
This is it's actually two in the foreground and background are two of my terrain projects that have videos of their own. One of them is like a ruined factory, which I think is a great entry-level 40K build. And then behind that, you can see just a hint of a sort of Doric column there. It's like a ruined sort of city building that's kind of inspired by, you know, the big public buildings in New York when I was living in New York, like the New York Public Library, the Met Museum, stuff like that.
GW First National Bank.
Yeah, exactly. It's a big city often has these huge neoclassical facades, you know, dating back to another time. And I thought that's something I'd never seen in like a city fight terrain. Right. And I think it just adds something cool. I wanted to do that. So, and I think this is a cool photo. It's kind of tying it all together. These guys peering out the window as the thing lumbers by.
Yeah.
And,
I also love that those are like retro classic Armageddon Steel Legion too.
Yeah, I never know these days what's classic and what's been brought back out of the out of the archive.
You probably could still get these. Maybe you might find them in a made to order.
I think they did a made to order like a year or two ago, or two. Maybe it's been 5 years. I don't know. I lose track of time. But no, I love the old Perry Imperial Guard sculpts that just are in those really natural poses, and they're monopose, but it's like just a perfect pose. I've talked about this before that I really appreciate when a miniature is in a pose that it could conceivably be in every turn of the game. You know, so if it's just a guy aiming a gun, I love that. Whereas if a guy's, you know, mid pirouette in the air, it's like, you know, is he doing that every turn? You know, it's great as a display miniature, and a lot of people love that. But I love when my minis are immersed in the table, and that's where I derive my enjoyment from. So I like a more neutral pose, a more, you know, sort of unremarkable pose. And
that whole squad, that whole Steel Legion squad is great because I think there's like 8 sculpts in that squad, like, and they're and you can double them up, and you don't even notice them because, to your point, like they're so natural looking.
Yeah,
like
that's the other place where it'll really show is when you start getting doubles. Yeah, like a lot of the kill teams or war bands or stuff like that. It's like they look incredible, but then when you have 2 of them, it's like, oh damn, they really clearly have 2 of the same squad there.
It's gotten better. The new plastic kill teams, a lot of them you can almost every single model, like in the new Death Corps, the new Kriegers kit.
Yeah. Every
single model can be made at least 2 ways, and a couple of them can be made 3 ways. So even if you got double squads,
yes,
they would all look different. So yeah, I think that's really cool.
The new guard kits are incredible too. I love them, but you know what I don't love doing is like gluing a wire of a gas mask and onto it. Like I don't like screwing around with that. If I could just open a blister and get the guy out, and like these are monopose, they're one piece.
Yeah,
like you glue the slot into the base and you're good to go. And for a horde army, especially, like I'm going through it right now with these Mechanicum guys I was telling you about, is the infantry. It comes with 20 of these infantry, which is the thralls, tech thralls or whatever, and they're each like 20 pieces. They're the tiniest pieces.
That's crazy.
And it's like, yeah, it's like 20. you want me to build a horde of multi-part? Like, come on. Like, what happened is slotting them into the base and you're good to go. You know, I want to spend my time painting. I want to spend my time building terrain. You know, they're beautiful models, so I can't complain about the models, but it certainly takes longer the more detailed plastic kits to build them.
Maybe they don't want you to build a horde, and they're just sort of driving you towards the big tanks. I couldn't do another 20 of these guys.
Yeah, that's all part of their Q&A
That's
testing.
500 points to build.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they go into like the design room and they're like, guys, how many of these would you really want to build? And they're like, I don't know, maybe 30. And they're like, cool, we'll sell them in boxes at 10. And then people will
add
get
more
sick of it,
tubes.
and
We'll
they'll
get
buy
people
10.
down to 20.
Yeah, could be. But this photo, I have a question about your planning process when you're building the stuff. I'm sure that this can be very organic and flow sort of as the pieces go through, like maybe like the waterfall piece. But with something like a building, do you sit down and plan that out beforehand? Do you do a sketch? Do you do like elevation and pictures? And
I
stuff
do
like
some usually a rough sketch. Like usually I try to figure out like the silhouette kind of, and then it's usually as basic as like, you know, this building here in the foreground, this factory. Yeah. It's got that sawtooth roof, which is something, you know, that's really iconic for a factory to have. Like it's you know, like if you pull up an emoji of a factory, it's probably a building with smokestacks and a sawtooth roof.
Right. Yeah.
So I knew I wanted a sawtooth roof, and then I was like, okay, well, how wide are my sawtooths? Like about 3 inches a piece, you know. So I measured 3, 3, 3. I've got 9-inch facade. I'm like, okay, that fits on this piece of foam core. And then like, what's the angle of the sawtooth? And then I sort of, once I have that one side, I sort of just eyeball how deep should it be, you know. So it's kind of, there's a bit of planning. I tend to do things in round numbers, like, you know, 3 inches per sawtooth, for example, but it's not overly planned. I definitely don't make a blueprint before I start going. Like I didn't know I would have all these interior beams at the time I started building this.
Okay.
And like these windows I actually made on the fly, just sort of 3D modeled them. Do the muntins and stuff is another very like factory-ish looking window, is to have a window that's subdivided with the muntins like that. So it's a lot of stuff like that. It's like I know stylistic notes that I want to hit that are like archetypical, whatever the word is. Like for example, you know, the iconic silhouette, the iconic windows, whatever. And I want to include those at some point, but then I sort of just organically stumble through the process to get there, I guess.
Right. Cool. I think it's I always find it fascinating. I think sometimes I do when I'm working on terrain, I'll do a thorough plan.
Mm-hmm.
And other times it's like, how wide should these windows be? Maybe they're the width of my ruler. So let me just place that down so I can draw a line and draw a line, move along, draw a line. Do that kind of.
So for some things I have like a convention a little bit. Like I tend to do doors 1 inch wide always, because that way a guy on a 25mm base can slip through it. Even though that's quite a lot wider than a normal base. Like wargaming scale is all messed up, but like at Dungeons and Dragons rules, an inch is 5 feet, right? So like a 5 foot wide door, that's like a solid big door, you know. But if you make the door smaller, nobody can go through it, and which isn't necessarily a problem, but maybe I want someone to go through it. So there's a little push and pull of realism and practicality. It helps to have a miniature handy and then just eyeball it, you know.
Yeah. No, that's cool. That makes sense. Next up, I thought we'd just show this one, but just quickly, say hi to Malev is in the chat.
Hey,
Alan Borthwick here, Grendelin Zed. Welcome, Alan. And Hank has joined us. Hooray!
Hey,
welcome,
Great
guys. Welcome. So
fantastic. Awesome. So yeah, this piece, I love watching your videos on this build.
Yes, this is my kill team table that I tried to do for the Gallo Dark setting, and this is like set on a spaceship, a space Hulk. It's not as ruiny and twisty as a space Hulk could get, but I really wanted to do an interior feel, specifically the interior that looks to the exterior, which you can see in the top left there. That's I sort of dropped the floor down for sort of 2-story windows with the Gothic arch. I really wanted to tie the spaceship interior with the outside that you see in like a Battlefleet Gothic ship, with just that sort of crusty Gothic detail. And I just thought it'd be something really cool, and I think it is really cool.
You could you could go a step further and you could have that red wall be kind of like throw some stars in there and you could literally paint a couple of Battlefleet Gothic ships out their window so they'd be the right scale.
Oh, dude, watch the video. I did do that. I have I have a Battlefleet Gothic ship that cruising by the window, and that red thing, that's like the warp backdrop that I made.
Oh, nice.
And it's basically like you get like an IKEA picture frame that has that plastic in it, a plastic sheet. So I spray painted that. And the left side, you can't see it because of the exposure of the photo. But on the right side, I spray painted it red, and it's like sort of a red and orange warp glow. And then on the left, it's just I scratched little dots, so it's like a night sky.
Nice.
And it's really cool looking, but it's also super kind of impractical to play with. But sometimes those things are secondary. Like, what is practical compared to cool? It's nothing, you know.
Absolutely.
And then
I'm also gonna say hi to Witty, who has joined us in the chat too.
Oh, what's up, Witty?
Welcome.
Cool. Yeah, in the front and the bottom corner here, that building, that room has a sort of infinity mirror thing going on. So I put a mirror at the bottom of that, and then I sort of magnetized the bases of the guys and made sure the bottom of the platforms were detailed. So it goes all the way. And you can even put a mirror on the top and get that sort of infinite corridor sort of thing, which is me trying to capture the outrageous scale of some of the ships as described in the lore. Like, I think the Emperor class ships are like, they're like 10 kilometers long or something. It's just like the scale is truly absurd. Yeah. And I just thought that there has to be some way of capturing that. I also really like in Star Wars, there's always, like, you know, you'll be walking around a spaceship interior and then all of a sudden you're on a bridge over like a chasm that seems to just go forever. I always thought that was really cool. So that was kind of a nod to that as well. Just random drops to infinity in the middle of the ships where you can, you know, cut your son's hand off and it just goes and
falls.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. I think that's super cool. I loved, definitely everybody head to Eric's channel. Link is in the notes below if you haven't been there before. Go and check it out and check out this. How many videos did you do on this? Was just one or two?
No, this was a 3-part series. Yeah. And like a lot of my series, there's big gaps in between some of the videos. And just because I'm gapping between the videos, guys, it doesn't mean that I won't finish the project. It just I've always done this. I've always had to bounce between projects to keep things fresh, you know? Sometimes if you hit a little bit of like creative block or something, it helps to, you know, go do some Mordheim or something, complete palette cleanser. So I'm a big advocate of that.
No, that's cool. Definitely cool. I think here's another shot of part of.
That's the room I call the hangar, which is sort of just exposed to the void there. I imagine there'd be like a little force field or something in there, in the big aperture on the right there. Yeah, I just thought it was cool.
Yeah, I love with the so you just know it's going to open up and hatch is going to open up and some sort of elevator is going to be in there.
Yeah. Again, that's like a very Star Wars thing, right? Like having those big open bays that just go out to space, and the Millennium Falcon comes in on the tractor beam or whatever. I've always just loved the imagery of that. And because you get those big panoramic night skies where there's no like door or anything. It's just a force field or something. I just love the look of that.
Yeah, no, it's super cool. I just loved all the use of all of the different elements there. It's great. I've got a whole bunch of this Gallo Dark terrain that I really have to start doing something with.
Yeah, well, if you watch that video, there's like 5 different color schemes for how to paint it and a ton of different ideas for how to combine it into weird and fun stuff. So
nice.
Ben's the same, Dave. Ben has like a giant box full of
Gallo
all the different kill team set terrains.
Nice.
So this is actually the only project I've ever done where Games Workshop reached out to me and said, if we send you a bunch of stuff, can you do something cool? And I think maybe the fact that it took me like a year to do it is why they haven't reached out to me since. But I had a good time. Thanks, Games Workshop. You want to do another one? You know, I can have it ready in 12 months or so. Yeah.
They're like the guy who sent it to you retired. He sent it to you and then he retired after he didn't hear back. So
nice. That's cool. Next up, I think when I was talking about the there've got to be some builds where you just go into it not knowing exactly what's going to happen, but just having that idea. Was this one of those?
No. So this is. Sorry, I don't know why I just said no to that. I guess it is. I mean, they're like this is my attempt at like building an ash waste. So one of the first videos on my channel, and I think I did send you a picture of it. We'll talk about it later. Is an ash waste fortress that I did in sort of a red desert, and I just kind of had this idea pop into my head, and I started building it, and it just got bigger and bigger and bigger, and it was really, really cool. And it was the first video that really sort of blew up on my channel. And so that was really cool. But there's a guy who and I forget his username right now, but he did some art for the ash waste like before it came out, before it was like obviously Necromunda has had an ash waste release in the last 2 years or so, but before that it was very sort of cult. Like there were some like only the hardcore people knew about it, and I was always kind of drawn to it. And this guy did an illustration in sort of a gray ash waste, and I thought that was extremely cool. So being a terrain going overboard type guy, and also, I've played countless games on my red desert. I thought, why don't I make a gray ash waste set of terrain, which is just completely overboard to create a second set of ash waste terrain. But this was my first foray into that. So I built this big chunk of rock using this rock technique I've developed over the years that I'm pretty happy with. And if you're interested, go check out the video. It's more to that. It's made just out of foam with a texturing process that I've developed. And then this sort of my improvisational style of building with corrugated metal, and there's a piece of like a children's toy up at the top there, and these pipes, cheap pipes from Amazon. This is my favorite way to build, is just sort of improvisationally adding a platform, adding a staircase. Where does that one go? Oh, over here. Okay, that would be cool. What would be cool here? Maybe a ladder going up, and just no plan, just sort of free flowing. It's so much fun to build like that, and you get a really cool result, I think.
Yeah. So you mentioned children's toy there. Which should be this piece up the top here.
Yeah.
I've always been sort of amazed and in awe of folks who can look at other things like toys or trash or whatever and see a shape in there that can be turned and twisted and used as a completely different piece somewhere else. My brain is far too linear. It's like, well, it's this thing goes this way, right? So what are things that look like it this way? Nothing. Okay, I'll put that aside. Is your thinking much less linear, or?
Well, I think I see the patterns really clearly, and that's something going the other way I really try to avoid in my work. Okay. So like if you think about like a Coca-Cola classic bottle, it's got a really distinctive shape.
Yep.
And there's no amount of pipes and stuff you could put on that to not have it read as a Coke bottle. You know what I mean? So I'm really careful about trying not to have things that pull you out of it because it reads as another shape at scale. But then there's a lot of things where it's like you're looking at it in the world and it's like, you know what, this could be recontextualized and look really good at scale if you added a ladder or whatever, so I definitely do think like that. I sometimes forget that not everybody thinks like that, and it's kind of funny because when you see it you can't unsee it, you know what I mean? And and so it's, I don't know, it's an interesting thing.
I'm always fascinated by it. It's like, oh yeah, of course. As soon as I see it, it's like, oh yeah, I can totally see that now.
Yeah, and like you'll see that in behind the scenes in movies sometimes and stuff like that. They'll say, "Oh, we made this thing, like this spaceship actually is one of these," and you go, "Oh my god!" And then you never unsee it, right? Like, and
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've always thought that was interesting, and it's
Totally.
Yeah.
No, that's cool. That's definitely cool.
That's
Next
the one I was talking about. This
Right.
is the one that I made, the Ash Waste Fortress. I think it's really cool. This particular shot is from my video about the Ash Wastes, and you can see I'm playing around my rudimentary green screen techniques in the background there. I made just sort of like sandstorm. Like in the video, that cloud is blowing around and stuff like that, and I think it looks pretty sweet. And I'm kind of proud of my when I get to blur the line with like special effects and start to play around with that sort of stuff. That always makes it fun for me. I also probably was like blowing like smoke into the scene and stuff, and just
Right.
it's fun.
Debris and that kind of thing.
Did you weather all that rock, or is that wood chips?
That is a combination of wood chips, like just in the you can see some of it is foam that I've tried to blend in with the wood chips. Like right down there. Yeah. But mostly that's bark that I fished out of the well of a tree near my apartment in Brooklyn when I lived there.
Nice.
And I had to sort through like it's Brooklyn, so there's a lot of dogs, like a lot of dry dog turds in there too. But we don't need to go into that.
No. So you're saying it's spent a bit of time in your oven?
No, I don't bake things. I just, you gotta let nature run its course. I think honestly, all of that stuff comes from guys in the UK, and UK is so damp that it's like, oh, you didn't put that thing in the oven for 6 hours, it's gonna mold, and you're gonna come back and there's gonna be mushrooms on it. It's like, no, there's not where I live.
Right.
That's never happened once. Whereas in the UK, you come back the next morning if you haven't baked something, and it's like The Last of Us or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's the UK thing. Like I don't think you have to disinfect anything. But what do I know? Don't quote me on that.
No. Okay. What you're saying is proceed at your own pace and your own approach.
Yeah.
Excellent. Michael Baker says, I like the part where you take breaks to reinvigorate the future parts. Great process. Just says, for Eric, do you have any rules for yourself when detailing that you fall back to?
There's only one rule. The rule of cool. That's rules for detailing. No, I mean, you just kind of look at it and it's like, oh, you need a little more detail over here because this is too bare. But then even when you're building, if you leave a big bare wall, you could do some cool like drips of rust and stuff on it and chipped paint. Like you'd be surprised how little detail you can get away with sometimes if you have the right silhouette, the right, combination of textures. Like if you look at the piece on the screen right now, there's not like a million little consoles and terminals and servo skulls and wires and stuff like that. But it still reads as plenty detailed once you have minis on it and stuff like that. And at the end of the day, this is like probably my biggest criticism of like GW terrain is it's like you don't want the terrain to take as much attention as the minis themselves.
Right.
You don't want there to be so much detail that your mini gets lost in the background. Like you still want it to be about the minis. And it's nice to reward a closer look with little bits of detail here and there, but you'd be surprised how Spartan you can be with the detail on a bigger piece and still have it look really good.
Well, it's the whole less is more approach, right? Like I think that, when somebody paints this big thing and they covered in rust, you're like, yeah, I mean, that's cool. Like, I think spots of rust would have gone a lot better to read as like, oh, this place is rusty. It's you only need to do so much. And I think putting Easter eggs there for the fans is always a great one. Like, so I used to build tables back in the day, and I kind of try to take from your school, which is I try to have some stuff built into the table, and then I have a lot of modular pieces. Because, like you were saying, you want to have that variety. You never want to feel like, oh, we're playing on the sand board again. Like,
right.
But at the same time, like, you're like, oh, it's different. Like, yeah, we're on the desert planet. We're not necessarily in the same kind of area. But I think Dave and I have talked about this too. One of my favorite tables of all time is, I think it was I think it was Chad Mirzwa and Jason Buyaki made it for like some games day in like the mid 2000s, and it was the one where I remember talking to Jason about it afterwards, and I was like, "How did you make this?" And he's like, "Oh, we just went into the warehouse and they literally grabbed a bunch of vehicle kits and took them on the parking lot and threw them on the ground, and then ran them over with the bits wagon. We used to have the big van, the Econoline Ford van. He like ran over the boxes, and then him and Chad picked them up, brought them inside, opened them all up, and glued them all down, and sprayed the whole thing rust, and then painted it so it looked like you were playing in an orc junkyard. But the whole table is basically just made out of layered.
Oh, that's awesome!
Kits. It's incredible, and but the whole table is basically like not monochrome, but it's basically like a rusty orange looking table with bits of metal and grime and slime and stuff. But overall, the table reads as orange. But when you start looking at it, you're like, man, there's so much detail. But to your point, your minis don't get lost on it.
Yeah. Like if you were to paint all of those vehicle kits in the paint scheme of the vehicles, it would be too busy. You know what I mean? Like,
yep.
So yeah, there's a push and pull between how much detail you do, the paint job you do, and then the other thing I wanted to say is that texture is detail. I mean, sand; those are fine details. Like the texture of these natural bark pieces, like that is detail, in a sense, right?
Well,
like
the texture that you've used for the metals as well, like the lattice work on these columns and the diamond plate on some of the paneling and the corrugations and that sort of thing. It's all adding that detail.
Yeah, exactly, right? Texture goes a long way to adding that detail, right? Like it brings you to scale, gives you and you do need your eye needs space to breathe, You can't have everything can't be a focal point.
Yep.
You need to have areas that lead into the focal points. You want your eye to follow the path, and then you come around the corner, and then it's rewarded with a bit of detail and something interesting and a staircase going up, and then there's another path. And like you want your eye to travel around it's kind of a nebulous thing, but I know it when I see it,
For sure. That's definitely cool. Just quickly, Jake, I think Rob Hawkins is another one of the guys who worked on that table.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not trying to leave anybody out. That is like I still remember that table. That had to be like
if you find some pictures, I'd love to see that.
Or huh?
I've never seen that. If you find some pictures, I'd love to see it.
Oh God, Dave might have some, and maybe Schaefer does. Schaefer might have some.
Schaefer might have some, but we might have to dig some out. There's probably some in a White Dwarf somewhere.
It is like just to this day, it's like one of the coolest tables I've ever seen. I remember, and again, when he told me, he's like, "Oh yeah, we just ran over with the bits wagon." It's like, what? Now, obviously, it's a lot different. It's not like you, me, or Dave are going to walk into a Games Workshop, buy several $1,000s worth of vehicle kits, and then run them over. Like he's like, yeah, we just came up with armloads of vehicle kits from the warehouse and just threw them on the driveway, just drove over them. I was like, yeah, most people are not going to do that.
Yeah,
no, definitely not. Next up, moving on from the Ashways, I thought looking at a bit more sort of Necromunda style, the verticality of.
This is actually my Inquisitor table.
Oh, wow.
54 millimeter scale Inquisitor. I did a video last year for 54 millimeter Inquisitor. And so these pieces.
You can totally play Necromunda on this.
Well, you could with a few alterations, because I was just about to say, like, dead center, there's that computer module there. That's a 3D printed bit that I've scaled up to 200%. And right in the center, on the top of that sort of kiosk, that one there. And then in the bottom right, there's some more of those. And that's sort of what makes it Inquisitor scale, is the fact that I printed some specific Inquisitor scale bits. Like the railing on the walkway between the wall, that one is Inquisitor scale as well. So it's just a few things. And then most of the other stuff was built with Necromunda and 40K in mind. But it's a lot. It works at Inquisitor scale, surprisingly, because of some of the vagaries of scale, ladders and stairs. There's a little bit of wiggle room there. Like Games Workshop stairs are especially egregious for this, where it's like a mini is like 4 stairs tall, and if you stand in front of a staircase, like, unless you're pretty short, you're looking at like the 8th or 9th or 10th stair. Like usually stairs are not you know, like you're getting an amphitheater seating when you're talking about 4 stairs tall. So there's a lot of wiggle room there with ladders and stairs. And I was actually really pleasantly surprised to see how much my Necromunda and 40k terrain worked for a 54 millimeter Inquisitor. And I had a blast putting together this this table, and I thought it was really, really cool.
How tall is that? Like on the like the red wall?
That thing on the left. So that thing actually, ironically, I didn't build that. I was just looking at terrain on eBay, and this piece was about $200. Someone was selling it, and I was like, holy moly! Like, if anyone is going to buy this huge piece of terrain, it's going to be me, you know. And so I basically just touched up the paint a little bit. Like, there was some exposed pink foam that I painted black, but that's some passionate hobbyists, you know, work of extreme labor of love that they lost steam on and ended up with me.
His wife was like, that goes in the trash.
Yeah.
No.
Well, if that, I would love for that hobbyist to come out of the woodwork one day and see it on my channel and just know that it went to a good home. And you know,
that's super cool. I mean, it gives it works really well with the half that you built, because it gives it that sense of like verticality, and it shows like the different levels, because like in front of you you've got, you know, 1, 2, 3 levels worth, and then that goes across to the midpoint of that one, which has another 3 levels, and then there's like 2 levels over here. There's just a lot of like, I like the fact that there's so many kind of like platformy, like different levels you can play on. So
yeah, that's what drew me to Necromunda in the first place, is just like bridges over things. You can go under the bridge, you can go over. There's 2 different routes, 3 different routes, 4 different routes to get to something. It looks so cool. You know, you just want to be there. And this is going back to what I was talking about before, which is having a backdrop, right? Like it just adds so much. It just frames everything nicely. It obviously makes things more photogenic. I think it just adds so much. Like, I love it.
Yeah, it's an incredible amount of depth to it all.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
over there where the purple cans are, like that's clearly like that's where the Joker gets made. He falls off that platform into the tank, and
literally, yeah. Exactly right. In fact, in the video that I did that, which was 4 years ago now, I used the clip of the Joker falling into that ooze, because literally there's a little diving board platform there. It's explicitly for the reason that when you're playing Necromunda, you can shoot somebody and they fall into the ooze. That's exactly, you nailed it.
Awesome.
Nice.
Next up, this piece.
Yeah, there's some Necromunda terrain for you. Yeah, this is another big backdrop. This one I did build. This is sort of my shantytown Necromunda hive wall backdrop that I made. It's a big favorite piece of mine, and it's the basis of it is a piece of styrofoam that this computer monitor actually came in. Like the box that it came with this piece of foam, and I started looking at the foam, and I thought it had this big circle, this nice arch in it. It reminded me of like some, I don't know, Art Deco architecture or something with the
you can see the top edge, the top left, you can see the top of it.
Yeah. So, and then I added the big central pipe there. I pictured this as like a crossroads, like a confluence of like sort of an arterial, like Necromunda hives or hive cities in 40k in general are made of domes that are all connected to each other. And I figure this is sort of a arterial route that connects 2 domes together. This is the hive wall, so to speak, interior wall. And I wondered for a lot of time how domes connect and stack with each other. And I came up with the metaphor that I'm quite proud of imagine blowing bubbles in milk.
Okay.
And the way that's how I picture it in my mind, the Necromunda domes connecting together. But anyways, yeah, this is, and so there's the backdrop piece, and then there's a bunch of other pieces that I've made, and they're connecting with bridges. So it's modular here to get, just different connections at different points. And that's something that I'm conscious of when I'm building my terrain pieces, is I don't put a lot of railings on things. First of all, because I love when in game somebody falls off the edge. That's like my favorite thing. But I also leave the railings off, because then you can put a bridge to that place in a recontextualized modular terrain setup, right? And that that gives you so many more options to do that. And I do have a bunch of standalone railing pieces that I could just put up there if I wanted a railing somewhere. But generally I leave things railingless. It gives it that. Have you guys seen Spirited Away? You know that scene where Chihiro's running down the outside of the bathhouse and there's no railings and it's that rickety staircase? I always really liked that scene too. So I think there's something cool about that. Like you picture going up the side of this hive wall here, going past these shanty towns and businesses, and you just got to be sure-footed or you're a grease spot on the hive floor.
I imagine that the Necromunda permit office is probably not like OSHA compliant. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's a stack of like 10,000 permits, and they're just like, yeah, whatever, go ahead, build it. Like
yeah, exactly.
Nobody has time for railings.
Yep. That's awesome. Moving on from Necromunda.
Is giants attacking this poor western town?
Yep.
Yeah. Paul Bunyan. Yeah,
the permit office here is all about the railings.
Yes, exactly. So this is a whole different thing where as much as I would love to have bridges connecting these things. No, I'm serious. I love when there's a second layer of playability, but there's also times when you have to make a concession to like what is the iconic look of something. If the railings add something stylistic visually, you can't leave them out. You know what I mean? So this Wild West town was one that I had a ton of fun making. You can see there's a bunch of different custom signs that I made. So I had a fun time sort of dreaming up businesses and then figuring out what to write on them, because a lot of the signs from the Old West are actually really wordy. Like there's like a lot of sort of description.
Yeah, the one that's right under your face, the T.E. Barnaby and Sons General Store, like that's amazing.
Yeah, and it says groceries and hardware or something and something else. But yeah, they always would have like a description. And then like this saloon here on the right, it says poker, whiskey, and Pharaoh. You don't see the sign that says Pharaoh, but I thought that was fun because Pharaoh is the game that they're playing in Tombstone. Yeah. Which is a weird old-timey Western card game. So I love little details like that, just throwing them in. And then this is one of the ones that like this is exactly like a palette cleanser project. Like as you know, even though it's a pretty big project. But it's a completely different aesthetic. You know what I mean? Like if I'm burned out on Necromunda, I'll make a Wild West town and I'll have the best time doing it. And then by the time I'm finished that, I'm so sick of it that I don't even want to see it again. I'll go back to doing something else. And then, I don't know, 6 months from now, I'll dig out my Western town and I'll go, oh my God, this thing's so cool. I forgot all about it. And then I'll be able to enjoy it, you know? So that's kind of my cycle of things is like, by the time I'm done editing a video about something, I'm so burned out on the topic a lot of the time that I need to switch gears. And then I can't really enjoy it until I come and revisit it, which is kind of a funny life cycle thing, but yeah, it is what it is.
I just love the idea of you being like, I'm working on this Necromunda city. You know what? I can't do this anymore. I need a break. I'm going to build a Western town. Like that.
If you don't laugh, you cry, man.
No, it's definitely cool. This is one of my favorite tables.
This is awesome.
Yeah, that's my Mordheim setup right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, funnily enough, a lot of times people ask me if I do commissions, and the answer is, pretty resoundingly no. I mean, I could be tempted potentially to do one, but I made a tutorial of a Mordheim building that's like the best one I ever made. It's like 3 row houses squished together, and it's just really cool. And that was a commission. So as soon as I finished the video, I packed it up. I sent it to the guy. Great guy. He seems to be enjoying it. That's all well and good, but I don't have it for my setup. And every time I'm setting up a Mordheim table, I'm like looking for it. Like I'm like, oh damn, So, but this is an example of again the cumulativeness of these projects. Like each of these was a one-off project, and they're cool on their own. But when you combine them all together, it's even cooler. And I could make the next Mordheim building that I make will recontextualize this whole scene again and make it cool again. You know what I mean? So It's like that's kind of one of the really fun things about terrain for me is that you can get them all out on the table. And storage is a bit of an issue, but
Sure.
yeah, it's.
I like that you have like the original Bone Ripper down there, like the original one.
Yeah. That guy's awesome.
Sorry.
Nope.
You just skip ahead. One of the annoying things about PowerPoint is that sometimes the cursor slips in the wrong spot. It moves on to the next slide.
That's the original guy down
So I
there.
see in the chat here, David Hummel said, scale Space Marine Amtrak in bottom right in black and yellow, possibly a G.I. Joe toy. Yes, that is a, as far as I know, a Canada exclusive Toys R Us toy soldier toy. I don't know if it's specifically G.I. Joe branded, but yeah, you're right. It is exactly a toy. And that's a thrift store find, which is something that I could have touched on when we were talking about building with toys, which is sometimes you'll find a toy that retails for $99 or something, and you get it for $4 at the thrift store. So like that, and then it just opens all these worlds. Like as far as from a tutorial perspective, if you're trying to follow along with me, it's kind of difficult sometimes. If I've got a thrift store find that's like a one of a kind, but that's just part of the game. I'm a big thrift store fan. Although now that I've got my own kid, more and more of my thrift store finds are going directly to him. So I kind of slowed down on that a little bit.
Sure. Yeah. But it's just you're able to bring more into the house, right? Because they're going to a different.
Oh my goodness!
For them first.
Yeah, when Jake was bringing out the Deadpool and Wolverine, I almost went on a tangent there. But I've basically been. I gave my son the tub of action figures from when I was a kid, and so he's been enjoying those. And he also watches, like, he's only 2.5, but he's watched this Amazing Spidey Friends, which is the toddler version of Spider-Man. So I've been sort of going on eBay and buying lots of the old Spider-Man toys from Spider-Man the Animated Series. And then that's sort of segued into, he's got a children's book now from X-Men 97, and he knows all the characters. And then I've been buying the toys and giving him, so he knows Cyclops and Beast and Bishop and Magneto. And I've been really getting a kick out of that. He's too young to watch the show yet, but he loves the toys. And I gave him a Deadpool recently, like from like an old 90s Deadpool. But he's too young to go watch Deadpool and Wolverine with me by a long shot. Give him another decade at least, so.
Nice. That's awesome. Yes, next one is
classic Tomb Kings.
Hey, yeah, there's my Tomb Kings. These are painted with the Army Painter paints, which is always fun. And but you can see the hints of terrain in the background, which is, of course, now this is like how overboard I can go sometimes, which is so on the left, those statues are actually from the Royal Ontario Museum gift shop.
Okay.
So those are ones that I bought in like 2015, and I just had them lying around for my Tomb King setup. And then on the right there is literally the night before I had. Do you guys know Scary from Scarredcast? He's a great guy. Yeah, good gamer. He was coming over to play Warhammer: The Old World with me when it first launched. And the night before he came over, I built this little Sphinx on the right here. And I didn't film it or anything. I didn't put it on the channel. It's just sometimes you just get the bug and you go a little bit overboard. And so I wanted to talk about it because it's literally the head is just 3D printed, and then the body is just pretty roughly sculpted from foam. But I think it's cool as hell. Like, especially a little bit out of focus in the background. It just does so much to add to the scene, Yeah. And I just think that's cool. I'm also a huge Egypt fan. I can watch, Egypt theory videos for hours. Like the sort of grounded theories about, like, examining the physical evidence inside the pyramids and stuff like that. I'm not big on the
ancient aliens dudes. Yeah, that guy.
Yeah, I'm not big on the more far-fetched stuff. Because I think the
it's aliens, man. Every time I see that guy, I'm like, get out of here. Like, why are you on TV? Like the History Channel used to be a real channel.
yeah, it is crazy, isn't it? I mean, like I watch YouTube documentaries that are just straight history that I think are so entertaining, and it's like, would this really be so unpalatable to the general public? Like, yeah, it has to be like, this tabloid sort of stuff that they got on there. It's weird.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, the History Channel and the Science Channel should be be embarrassed. Like it's getting a little ridiculous.
Yeah.
But I think so. We move on to I think this is the final photo that you sent through.
Hey, there it is.
Amazing.
The Titan. Yeah, my
your Imperator.
My love and my bane. This guy. Yeah, I can't wait till this thing is no longer pink. Like I
had the original Imperator that came in Space Marine.
Oh yeah, hell yeah. I've got that guy too. He's kind of the basis of this. I've made some departures and stuff, but I really wanted to feel like that guy at the end of the day. Like have the same
scale, same
ostentatiousness and outrageous silhouette and sort of off kilter, off balance feeling to it.
It's like, so bonkers. You're like, hey, what if we had a giant robot? And you're like, well, that makes sense. You're like, and it can carry weapons. You're like, sure, it'll be like a giant land battleship. Yeah. And we'll make a bigger one. Okay, sure. And then a bunch of tech priests are like, what if we made a bigger one that had more artillery units on its back? You're like, okay, I'm listening. And they're like, hear me out. What if we went like a step bigger, like to ludicrous size, and we built a church on its back? And somebody went, that sounds good.
Yeah.
Like somebody rubber stamped that.
You got it, right? I mean,
it's a blank stick, yeah.
Yeah, like my thought was always like this should be like the 40K version of the helicarrier, which is that should be like a naval base on the back that it can like launch Thunderbolt fighters and like Marauder bombers. Like I was like, that'd be rad. And they're like, no, it'll be a church.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, it's like, the way I see it, it's like it's a propaganda tool as much as anything, right?
Yeah.
You land one of these on the planet. Like, imagine being part of some sort of guerrilla resistance and you see this thing on the horizon. It's like, okay, like, like just the visual impact of it does more than any practical engineered piece of machine could ever do. And it's like, it's an avatar of the machine god, it's a statement of power and if they're willing to go this overboard, building this, think about how overboard they're willing to go with anything, like you don't want to get on their bad side, right?
Yeah.
Like it says a lot just by existing. It carries a powerful message. So sure. I don't think it's actually as impractical as it's sometimes been portrayed as. Like, sure, it's not the most quick on its feet or but it's got its place, I think, as a real tool of war. And I just think it's such a cool idea. And I mean, it's been 2.5 years since I started it now, which is crazy to say out loud. It's also, I started it very shortly after my child was born, and as you can imagine that it feels like I have less time since my kid was born. So I didn't picture that I wouldn't be finished by now, but I will finish, and it'll be good. And one of the things I always talk about is there are things that I want to do on it that I don't know how to do yet. I didn't come from a background in fabrication or anything like that. So a lot of the ideas I have, I've got to iterate on other projects and then come back to the Titan once I feel the confidence to do it properly. So that's kind of one of the reasons it's taking so long. And then another reason is just, having to bounce between projects to keep myself motivated. No,
I think that's cool. And it's such a impressive project to have sort of at the side there where it's like, okay, I'm excited about it today. I'm going to or I'm going to do some bracing, or I'm going to mess around and try and do the
Well, so
I'm looking forward to seeing the put a garden up the top here.
yeah, I mean, one of the things that
or something
that's challenging about working on it is I can't really chip away on it like that. I do need to kind of clear all my tables and stuff and break it down into pieces and then work on it that way. So it's not, whereas if I'm jumping between like miniature projects, I can just take it off the shelf and pull out my wet palette and something like that. This is even working on it is there's a lot of inertia from that perspective as well.
Are you I'm trying to think about like if I was tackling something like this, and I'm just curious as to your thought process. Like if I was tackling something like this, I would basically build this as it's basically 5 projects. Like I've got 2 giant guns. So I'm building these 2 giant guns, like cool. So they're both guns. They're going to look a little different, but I'm just building 2 big guns. And then his legs are basically like fortresses. So I have 2 fortresses. And then you've got like his whole like robot torso, robot head. And then you're building a church.
Yeah.
So like, do you think of it like that? Or you're like, I have to build this whole Titan?
Oh, absolutely. I think about it like that to a certain extent. You also have to think about things in project terms just from a YouTube perspective. Like what's the title of the video? What's the, like still working on the Titan part 8, doesn't have the same draw as I did the Titan's head, something like that. So it's definitely, there's an aspect of it where you want to break it up into projects like that. But sometimes there are just like weird contingencies between things. Like if I'm going to do the arms and I have planned for the arms, certain things that I want to do that might require wiring. And then, so I need to plan for that on the inside. And then I need to plan for, there are just overlapping contingencies and things. And then there's the constant looming challenge of the overall weight getting too big.
Right.
Because it's built on a PVC pipe frame and it's stable enough so far and it's fine. But if I start adding plaster cast detail to this thing, for example, like it'll start leaning at some point and that would be really scary. So I'm always conscious of that challenge as well. And then I also want it to be playable. I want guys to be able to move around the top. I want to have guys be able to move around a little bit inside of it and, on its arms and things like that. And so all of those considerations sort of overlap with each other and I need to think about, and it's a big knot of a problem that sometimes is very difficult to turn my mind to. And, but it's when the top, some of the things that take the longest just don't look like they took very long, but just trying to figure out the layout of the top and the spacing between the buildings and the edges. And it's like, how much space do you need for a miniature to go around? And then where's the stairs going to be? And then like things like that, I agonize over those and they don't actually show up anywhere. Like, it's just like, you can waste so much time. I could literally spend a whole day just sitting, looking at it and scratching my chin. And it's like, I got nothing done, but like I'm wrangling with the really difficult problems in my mind. And there's nothing glamorous about that. It doesn't look good on camera to sit there and scratch your chin for 8 hours. And so like, I always feel like I haven't done enough when I do an update on it. But people are always really supportive and really excited to see it. And that fuels me. And
this is 40K scale?
Yeah, it's 40K scale.
Okay, nice.
And it's the bigger end of the 40K scale. So in the early videos, I go into the scale, and because there's a lot of contradictions in the lore about how big it is. Like in the first, I think in Horus Rising, they said it was 140 meters tall, Imperator Titan. And then later they, like once they started Forge World releasing Titans, they changed it and said, nah, it's 40 meters tall. 40 meters tall is really small. Like, if you think about a cathedral, like go to your local cathedral and think about how tall that spire is, and then imagine that being 1/3 of the height of the thing. It's like you're dealing with a teeny tiny church if it's 40 meters tall. Like, and that just won't do. Like, there's nothing spectacular about a walking chapel. It has to be a walking cathedral. You know what I mean?
Well, maybe
So-
they mean the knight is like the Titan itself is 40 meters tall, and then there's a church on it.
But even still, I mean, like you could make that argument. So mine at scale, based on the calculations I've done, and again, there's no official way to calculate Warhammer scale because things are funky. But I came up with something like 109 meters tall. So it's smack in between the 140 meter high end estimate and the and there's other like weird like in one, I think in the book Mechanicus, they describe an ordinatus, which is one of the big guns on tracks that the Mechanicum has, and they said that it's 100 meters long and it's nearly as big as an Emperor Titan lying down. So there's another piece of 140 meters was not a typo, you know. But like I'm constantly dealing with comments like this where people are saying, "Oh, this is way too big. You blew it. Start over."
I mean, it has to be way bigger because like right now, the biggest Titan that Forge World makes is a standard warlord.
Yeah, and that would be like up to this guy's knee, and they have diagrams, official diagrams, where they're like, oh, and then the Imperator Titan is just a bit bigger than that. And it's like, no, it must be way bigger. It can't be that I'm trying to sell you a resin Titan size. Because also, like, there are scenes like in the novel Hell's Reach, for example, there's scenes where a chaplain goes up into the head of the Titan and has a conversation with the pilot, and there's like a bunch of servitors hanging out. And it's like it's like a Starship Enterprise sort of bridge type feel, right?
Yeah.
You need that. Like, imagine that on a 40-meter Titan. It's impossible. It's physically impossible. Like, a Space Marine wouldn't be able to fit in the cockpit, walking around talking. Like, it would be a cramped, like the Titan cockpits from Forge World. They're cramped. They're like a car. Like, there's no room to walk around in there. So there's just certain things that you have to deal with. You know, I had to go big. I had no choice. Like, I want you to be able to go in the cockpit. I want once you start actually figuring out the practicalities of scale and putting minis on it and stuff, it has to be the bigger size. And it's literally as big as it can be in my basement. Like, it's 1 inch from the ceiling. So I couldn't go any taller and I couldn't go any smaller. It had to be this size.
Yeah, I'm totally here for that. It's super cool.
Yeah.
No, awesome. I think it's great. Like 109 meters is like 350 feet. So 35 stories.
Yeah.
That's not an unreasonable number.
No, and like compared to skyscrapers, like this doesn't, like, this is like in one of my videos I actually superimposed it on the Toronto skyline, and there's like if anyone's familiar with Toronto, there's a hotel called the Royal York Hotel, which is, you know, built over 100 years ago. Like, it's not a huge skyscraper, but it's a tall building, and it's about that tall. So it's like it would walk amongst the skyscrapers, knocking them over and stuff, but it wouldn't dominate the skyline in a average or big city. So I think it's the right size.
Yeah.
And just one other thing while we're on the topic. I've had so many people correct me on the pronunciation of Imperator.
Okay.
I said at the beginning of the project Imperator because that's what I thought it was. It is a Latin word. And if you go to a Latin expert, which I have done, the stress is on the penultimate syllable. Imperator is the word. It's not a made-up Games Workshop word. It doesn't matter how they say it at your local GW.
Yeah, so
unless they have a PhD in Latin, I will not hear it.
So that's the trip up, because Games Workshop uses, for all intents and purposes, Pig Latin. They're not using real Latin because they don't conjugate the verbs right. It's Gothic is not real Latin. That's how they get away with all the pronunciation. Like, because it's not Latin.
Well, where I got it in the first place is the audiobooks, the official Black Library audiobooks.
Yeah, they say
Imperator Titan. And he says
Imperator. Every time I've heard it, they say Imperator.
Yeah.
But then the other one too is like, the other one too is Abaddon, right? So if you listen to anything,
I'll die on that hill any day. Abaddon.
Anything from Games Workshop, it's Abaddon.
Yep.
No.
But once you're on this side of the Atlantic, everybody says Abaddon, and I'm like, but there's not two B's, there's two D's.
Again, that is not a made-up Games Workshop word.
Yeah,
it's just
Abaddon. It's from the Old Testament.
It's right, exactly. It's you know, You go back to the Hebrew or whatever. The other one I've been caught on is the Blood Angels' home planet of Baal.
Yeah.
I used to say Baal because that's how I said it when I used to play Diablo 2 as a kid. But it's like it's a Hebrew. It would be like Baal.
Yep. That's
There
Baal.
would be like a little stutter in the middle. Like it's 2 syllables.
Yep.
Baal. But yeah, Baal. You can say Baal, I guess.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Dude, by the way, this
don't
guy
get me
is,
wound up on these things.
this
you know?
guy is rad. I love this guy.
Woo!
Nice.
Look at that.
When I first saw this,
hang
I
on a
saw
second,
from
Jake.
this angle.
Hang on a second, Jake. I'm just gonna say, Eric, thank you very much for sharing all of that with us. It was really cool talking all that through. I mentioned at the just before the show that we go through and have a look at our community paint jobs from the BuildPaintPlay community Facebook page. So if anybody who's watching it hasn't joined our community, please come along and join up. Share your miniatures that you're working on, your terrain pieces that you're working on. We're excited to see it all. Back to you, Jake.
So I was gonna say that when Adam first posted this, like I absolutely love this. This paint job is incredible. This model is great. This is from Infinity. When I first saw this model, because he showed this angle and then he turned it, I thought it looks to me like a guy like in like an exosuit.
Yep.
So I thought this was like a regular sized guy in an exosuit. And then when you turn this guy sideways, this guy is like a superhero. He is enormous. And I was like, oh, he's just a really, really big dude who happens to be like bent over, like doing an action pose. I totally thought it was like a guy wearing an exosuit.
Right. No.
This model's rad though. Adam did such a good job. Like his non-metallic, like the colors on the hammer. I love the green. That green is so vibrant, and he's got so many different tonal shifts in the green. This model is great.
Yep. Absolutely. Eric, as we're going through as well, if you have something to say about any of the miniatures, just chime on in.
Well, what model is this?
I forget the character's name, but he's from Infinity.
From Infinity.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I thought it might have been a converted Marvel Crisis Protocol for a second.
Yeah, it has that look. It's a lot of the action pose kind of thing.
Yeah, it looks great though.
Yeah.
I forget who this is.
Is it an Ajax? Is it Ajax?
It might be Ajax. Yeah.
There's a connection with Greek mythology there, I think. But no, awesome job, Adam. Thanks very much for sharing that.
This guy looks rad.
Next up, Alan's
his crime gang.
Yep. So these are the Bozo gang for Cyberpunk. We've seen a couple of these models over the last few weeks, but this is all of them together. And
the colors are great. The colors and the washes, like there's so much vibrancy in all those colors.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I see Pennywise. I see Harley Quinn. There's probably more famous clowns there too, eh?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm sure Bozo's in there somewhere.
But one of the things I love is that even though there's that riot of colors, it's actually a fairly limited color palette. You got that blue, you've got the greenish turquoise, like the teal. You've got that the yellow, of course. A couple of pops of purple, red.
These are great.
But, yeah.
Really nice. Yeah, the Pennywise on the left, that fabric just looks exquisite. That's gorgeous.
Yeah. No, fantastic work there, Alan. Looks great.
Dave, and all of them fit into a Rhino transport.
Exactly.
They all fit into a Chimera.
Hey, that's a good one.
It would. For sure. Nice one. Alan also painted up these guys for the Cyberpunk.
So I know some of these are actually based on the cast from the show that they did. So the guy with the big gun over his shoulder and like the red trench coat, that's John
Kovaleski.
Yeah, and then the guy in the middle is our buddy Beast, who's former military, and then the guy with the skates and the sword on, that's the serial killer from Hackers, which is Matthew Lillard.
Right.
I forget who the other two people are, but like, yeah, these are great. Like the minis are super cool.
Yeah, definitely.
Matthew
One of my
Lillard
favorite things
was
in this line is they did a bunch of like kid gangers. So they're all like there's a girl with a skateboard and there's like a kid with like rollerblades. Like they're like the kid gangers are really funny too.
Yep. Alan in the chat said in the chat that in the vehicle expansion, the clowns get a car upgrade, which means they can use any vehicle as a reinforcement point. So more clowns can keep coming out of the same car. That's very cool. Awesome stuff there. And Alan also gave us his Ladies of the Night from Carnival from TT Combat.
Nice.
Or Carnivale. I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce it, but we don't need to go into that. But yeah, beautiful stuff there.
Nice.
Excellent work, Alan. Thanks for sharing.
beautiful.
Amos had painted up this BattleTech piece.
That is,
yeah.
That's BattleTech. That is, I would think, yeah. He was trying to mess with the new, like a new take on the Wolf's Dragoons classic paint scheme.
Okay.
And they're usually like red with black. And this time he used almost like a flesh tone to do the red. He wanted the red to look a little more like ruddy and like rusty. So he said he worked it up from like a reddish brown using like browns and tans and like flesh tones. But it looks super cool. He's got the little wolf logo, the howling wolf head, like on the middle of the carapace above the cockpit.
Yeah, I think this looks great. I love the. I had to throw in that sort of rear picture as well for the glowing exhausts.
Very nice and very smart gaming mechanic. He's got like the hazard stripes down the bottom, so that would be the Battle Mech's front arc.
Right.
So when you're playing the game, like that's its front.
Nice one. Excellent work. Bing has painted this up for Malifaux.
This looks like a Gene Stealer cultist to me.
Yeah.
The four-armed entertainer.
Yeah, seriously.
But they have that in the Infinite and Divine novel, right? As there's a carnival and some of the performers have 4 arms.
Okay.
And they're like, oh, I wonder how they're doing that. Some sort of puppetry. And it's like, oh, you have no idea what's coming.
You're like, technically it is some form of puppetry.
Yeah, true.
That's
a cool model.
But yeah, nice work, Bing. Looks great.
Super cool.
Beautiful.
Chris Gorka painted up the what's it called?
Shatterpoint.
Oh, it's for Shadowpoint, but what's the box set called?
Oh, this is Some Rescue.
This is Some Rescue. Fantastic stuff. So Eric, Chris, typically his paint jobs are a lot of very desaturated colors and then a pop of something very saturated. Obviously, if this with a lot of like white and black outfits and obviously the brown for Chewbacca, he's chosen to go for the bases where he's putting that pop of saturated color.
You know what I found out recently that relates to this is when they go into the garbage compactor in episode 1 or episode 4, I guess. And the Dianoga, the monster that lives in the trash water. Yeah. It's apparently like force sensitive. And like there's the whole backstory to that Dianoga specifically. And it senses Luke's force sensitivity and gives him a ceremonial baptism, which is why it pulled him under the water.
Okay.
That's apparently canon in the extended lore of the Star Wars universe.
Oh wow!
It's a misunderstood character. I think that, to be honest, I think that kind of cheapens it a little. But I love Dianoga.
So you said he wasn't in danger.
Yeah, I guess not.
I mean, they're in danger, but for a totally different reason.
Right? Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, I mean, just the idea of being completely submerged in garbage water, like. But I also wondered, like, who's throwing out that stuff, like in the Death Star? Like, what is sharing that chute with that? Because I mean, they can't be throwing that stuff out on the detention level or whatever.
To be honest, it does look like a lot of dumpsters that you see near construction sites. So.
Yeah.
I mean, the contractors.
Yeah, I guess a bunch of old half-eaten stormtrooper lunches and stuff like that would turn into a heck of a garbage soup after a while.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a beautiful take on the characters.
Yeah. Chris
Also
did such a nice job on it. Like his whites are so clean without weeding. It's just like blobs of white. Like he did so much texture and tone work on them. They look awesome. I think one of the coolest things for me is how much. This is one of the few times where you get to see how much rubber undersuit there is on the Stormtrooper suit, because they're almost always positioned so that you just see like lines of black. It's like a line at the elbow or a line at the knee or whatever. And because of the way Luke has his knee, you can see his underarm, and then more particularly how Han is running. So Stormtroopers only have a knee pad on their left knee, and they have a guard on top of their right knee. And the reason is so that when they kneel down, their left knee, which is because they're right-handed, their left knee would be protected.
Right.
But like you can see Han's whole right knee because he's running towards us. Like you can see the whole, the wetsuit basically that's underneath.
That's a cool detail. I didn't notice that. But yeah, it's super hard to paint a bunch of white models and have them look as dynamic and nice as this. Beautiful work.
Excellent.
These are great.
Great work there.
And Chewie looks awesome, of course, because Chewie's the best.
Yeah. Speaking of using toys, I know Dave mentioned this in the chat earlier, talking about kids' toys. This is a faux hawk that he's been working on.
Yeah, it's like a Star Wars Clone Wars transport or something that he's turning into. I think it's a Clone Wars transport.
Hell yeah.
Dave can let us know. He's in the chat there. But yeah, I'm not sure if you saw the post, Jake, but when you mentioned it looked a bit smaller than a Thunderhawk. That's a Thunderhawk on the left. So it's a bit bigger than a Thunderhawk.
I mean, its wings are bigger, but the carapace looks like it's basically the same size. I mean,
it's a bit longer.
I don't know. But, it just looks weird. Like the size, because of the sizing. I think because the wings are so big, it looks like it's the size of a what's the smaller one?
Storm Talon?
No, not the little one. The one that Forgel made forever, the Fire Raptor. It looks like a Fire Raptor.
Okay.
Because the Fire Raptor is like the mini Thunderhawk shape, and then it has the wings look so much bigger because the body's smaller. So when you see it on its own, you're like, oh, it's like the size of it looks like a Storm Eagle or a Fire Raptor.
Yeah.
But that's wild.
I mean, the Thunderhawk's iconic, but I can't imagine the wind tunnel tests are spectacular results.
Yeah, dude, that thing's a flying brick.
Yeah.
Can't imagine the wind tunnel tests were ever actually undertaken.
Yeah.
he could probably build it as like, because isn't that, what is it, the
Stormbird?
Yeah, the Stormbird is supposed to be bigger than the Thunderhawk is.
Yeah. But one of the things that Dave was saying in his post this week was he had some strange bubbling going on with some of the paints.
I kind of like it. It looks like battle damage.
The weird texturing. Yeah, that's what I'd do. I'd lean into some battle damage sort of in that area. Do some sort of stippling and some chipping and scratching. But I'm not sure why that happened, Dave.
Yeah, that's like the downside of thrift store finds sometimes is you don't always know the properties of the plastic. Like some plastics are just hell to work with. Like there's a type of plastic that feels almost oily to the touch, and it's like there's nothing you can do that'll stick paint to that. Like it'll just never. And so I'm curious what kind of plastic that was. I wonder if it's a residue issue or who knows.
Yeah.
But I think it looks good, so it's not.
Yeah, just lean into it, Dave. Cool, excellent. John Steining, he's been working on some more Napoleonics.
It's Boney himself.
Yep, Bonaparte and Nay, I think, and Murat.
Nice.
But I think John mentioned that these he felt that the sculpts were a little bit lumpy, but these are early Wargames Foundry pieces that I don't think these ones were sculpted by. Actually, it's tough to tell. Like Boney's face doesn't look really like it would be a Perry twins sculpt. The other faces do though. So I'm not sure. But it's been cool watching your Napoleonics come along, John. Very good.
These are great. His colors are so vibrant too. Like without being just like a wall of color, like they just look great. Like there's so much depth.
Yep.
Yeah, they do. Lovely.
Awesome stuff. Josh Potter. Josh is painting up this elf. This is from the upcoming Hobday and Hicks Kickstarter. So Andy Hobday and Paul Hicks have done a whole bunch of different things over the years. Namely, one of the biggest ones they've done recently is the Baron's War. So lots of historical miniatures for that. But they're adapting the Baron's War rule set to be for a fantasy sort of system, more a low fantasy style. And this is one of the elf miniatures from that range. I think the Kickstarter goes live tomorrow, actually. I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, if you're into cool monopose single for fantasy, definitely check those out.
Definitely got to put a tactical rock under that guy's foot.
Right. We'll just build up some block under there. Yeah, Josh says Wednesday it goes live. There we go. Josh has also painted up these minis for Tech Commander, which is from Sea Dog Game Studios. Yeah, they're looking super cool. I just love that enormous battery of missiles.
They're very go-body.
GoBot. I'm not familiar with a GoBot.
So the GoBots were like, so there was Transformers,
yeah,
and then another company had the GoBots.
Okay.
And the GoBots, I think the GoBots were made by Matchbox. So their stuff was all smaller scale and it was all chunkier.
Huh.
So like when I compare this stuff, because I love giant robots, when I compare this to like the BattleTech stuff, this looks a lot chunkier than like the BattleTech stuff.
Possibly.
Like that, like the guy in the back, right? He like his big chunky legs.
Those legs are great. I love them.
Yeah. Oh, they're awesome.
Yeah.
They do look awesome. I do love
these are cool minis. Do you know where these minis are from?
So it's Sea Dog Game Studios. So,
Sea Dog?
Sea Dog, yeah. If you check out our episode 2 weeks ago, Josh was on giving a review for a review of Gen Con. But there's a link in the notes for that.
Awesome.
There you go. Definitely cool there, Josh. Oh, there we go. Josh says Tonka had the GoBots.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
And these are designed to be a bit more vehicular than robot-y. So yeah.
Right on.
Definitely got that feel then, Jake.
Right on.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Josh. They look great. Kelly.
Do you know who this is, Dave?
This is Valkyrie.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. Do you know how I know?
Did he title it?
I read the caption of the post.
Oh, right on. Okay. Eric, I'm trying to teach him like superhero stuff, and he's coming along. He's coming along.
I'm getting there slowly, ever so slowly. But no, I think Kelly's done an awesome job here. I love all the work he's done, and the particularly the hair, because when a lot of people paint blonde hair, they go with far too yellow.
Yeah.
But yeah, this has just got that right amount of sort of desaturated color. But no, looks awesome there, Kelly.
Lovely.
I like this.
Very nice. Awesome. Ken Hutzel.
Yeah, my buddy Dallas. Yeah, he's I don't know if this is like a Nurgle warband or if this is.
Oh, he said this in the caption. He said this was his like Nurgle tribute to Darktide.
Oh, okay.
Darktide video game.
Nice.
But yeah, I think a few weeks ago we showed my mind's gone blank. We showed a couple of photos of his terrain setup he'd been working on.
Some really cool sculpts there. Like, who's that guy in the top right? That guy looks awesome.
The guy with the gun?
Yeah.
I think that guy is from the Gellerpox, which is one of the
official GW.
I don't think so.
No,
I think he is.
And the guy in the top left too, also really cool.
I like the guy in the middle in the back with the big like concrete block kind of iron pipe hammer thing.
Oh yeah,
I'll have to ask.
Like something out of the ground that like a post.
Yeah, I'll message Dallas. I'll ask him what this.
Yeah,
like,
ask him where they're from. Let's get a breakdown.
Because like some of them definitely look like they're Nurgle pieces, like the kind kind of the guys in the middle, like the guy in particular with like the weird bell thing. I think that's one of the zombies.
Yeah, like one of the what do you call them? Poxwalkers.
Yeah.
I think there's a blend of a lot of things in there, but yeah, they definitely look cool. Ken, is it Ken or Dallas?
So his real name is he goes by Ken. Ken Hutzel's his real name, but I've always known him as Dallas. His nickname is Dallas. I've known him as that forever. So
we got to work out what to put on your on the the slide.
He's a great. I'll message him. I'll find out where they're from.
Cool, awesome. Luis is working on another project. He's working on Ironfather Farios.
Yep.
He's got a bunch of the pieces done already, but I always like to see sort of the first stage. So, but yeah, excited to see how this comes along, Luis. Very nice, awesome. Phil Hall, Glacial Geek,
nice.
shared his Soul Black Gravelords Warcry warband. It'll be bringing along for the tournament at Nova.
This is an interesting mix. So, like the two guys on the left in the plate mail, those are from the Shadespire or Warhammer Underworld's warband. They're 2 of the 4 pieces, and then the guy in the background hanging off the column is from the Cursed City box.
Yep.
And then the skeleton guy, I think those are also in the Cursed City box, but it's just part of this. It's just part of the Death Rattle skeletons. It's just a Death Rattle skeleton. And then the guy in the front right with the knife and the robes, he's from another one of the warbands.
The Eskurgan True Blades.
Yeah, and then that's the White King in the background. I was like, I love that this is a mashup of like cool undead like Soul Blight Gravelords models. But I was like, it took me, my brain was like, wait a minute, this is like 3 different things.
Yep. But no, it's definitely cool. Nice stuff, Phil.
Yeah, this is very much like they are the ghosts of Christmas past.
Yep. We talked about rust before. This guy is super rusty.
Yeah.
But
they
sure,
just
Phil
dug up him and his horse.
The uses some of the War Paints Fanatic rust effects.
That's so
but yeah, nice stuff, Phil.
Beautiful work, Phil.
Very nice.
Scott has shared some of his Malifaux pieces, and he said Malifaux is a real game, Jake. But,
I mean, is it though?
It is. It is.
I just think it's something Scott made up. I think him and Bing just like trade stories, and they like made up they found some cool models.
Possibly.
No, I mean Scott. This is in Scott's wheelhouse. Scott loves like greens and bluish greens and like earth tones and lots of metallic. So yeah, I mean this looks awesome. I do like the cool skin tonalities he has around like the knee.
Yeah.
So you have like the worn part, and then like the deeper tones where like the muscle tissue would be like thicker, and like the thinner parts where like you could see blood vessels and stuff. He's just done such a great job with the skin tones all over this model are just awesome.
Yeah.
I was gonna say I love the skin tone there. It reminds me of the color grading in Lord of the Rings a little bit. Like it's just got that glow to it. It looks incredible.
Yeah. He's super cool.
It does look awesome there, Scott. And this guy as well from one of the, I think it's like Perdita gang.
Okay.
But just crazy gunslinger.
So, and his blue jeans look like blue jeans, which is great.
Yeah. Got that lovely the fade.
Yeah.
There on the knee as well.
Hard to paint good looking blue jeans. It is really difficult to make them look like blue jeans.
You know what I thought about? I thought if you're like writing a fantasy world or something, and it's like you made it up like a thing. It's like, oh yeah, the most common color of pants in this world is blue. Everyone would be like, come on, blue? The most common color of pants? Why? What? But that's our world. It's true, stranger than fiction.
Exactly. But that's super cool. And I love the scar down his the left side of his face as well.
Yeah, super cool.
Awesome. But you're bringing these to Nova, aren't you, Scott? You'll have to let us know. Looking great. Stephen Lee. Stephen Lee's a guy who's close to, or he lives close to me here in Baltimore. He hangs out down at Games and Stuff, and he's playing in. I think he's playing in 2 different Necromunda campaigns at the moment. But yeah, this Arbitrator Ambot is super cool.
This is great. I really like that he put that really grimdark message on the top.
Yeah.
This thing is so like friendly looking.
Yeah.
But then when it's got this like this really grimdark message, it's really like, okay, dystopian police spot.
Yeah.
Definitely reading more as that. I love it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And on the back it should say like "Have a nice day," and then you're like, "Wait, what?"
It's fantastic. I love that pinchy claw as well, bright red.
Yeah.
But awesome. Nice. Scott says, not really bringing any gaming stuff. Put myself solid with painting classes. By this time next week, I'll be sick of Andy Wardle's voice. Awesome. Fantastic. So Stephen Ryder, sorry.
I know who that guy is.
Some GSC.
Yeah.
Beautiful. That's the guy who goes with the old Gene Stealer cult patriarch who's sitting in the throne.
Yep.
Yeah, and he's the guy Grima Wormtongue who's whispering in his ear. I love that.
He's like, I don't think they're buying that we're just a little bit misshapen. These space marines seem pissed.
But they do love our fancy clothes.
Yeah.
Our high collars.
I think they noticed my Gene Stealer keychain.
Nice.
I'd love to see that's awesome.
So you're gonna say, Eric?
Well, I think it'd be cool to see like a Gene Stealer cult where they're all wearing like wigs that disguise their big.
I mean, they all have baseball caps. They all have baseball caps on.
Because it's pretty distinctive.
Yeah,
that's a really nice take on that model.
Especially in the 40K universe, because like it's not Star Trek. Like there's no Klingons. You're like, what's up with that guy's forehead?
No, exactly. It's like that guy's kind of pale purple.
They're like, oh, everything's fine here. What are you talking about? Like,
yeah, if he had sort of like a voluminous hairstyle hiding it, it would be a little more deniability, you know?
Yeah, like 80s metal hair is like all the rage on this planet. Like everybody has like crazy 80s hairstyles.
Like the Bratz gangs from Necromunda. Yeah. Those guys could be hiding a big noggin under there.
Yeah, see, everybody's got fantastic bouffant hairdos. All right, awesome. Now looking great there, Steve. Also posted.
Dude, this takes me back. This is like my first couple of issues at White Dwarf and being like, oh, should I order this? Which metal chaplain should I order from mail order?
Yep. This one would have to be on the list, but no, it looks fantastic.
I always thought the gold inlay on the power armor, I was like, oh man, I never liked that. So I always used to paint it and have it look weathered.
Right.
But they loved that. They're like, oh, he's a chaplain. How can you tell? Well, he has gold inlay on his pants. And you're like, oh, okay.
I think it looks great. I think Steve's done a great job.
No, he's done a great job painting it. I'm saying from an aesthetic standpoint, I was like, I never understood why they did it.
Awesome. And yeah, finally, Steve also painted up some RTB01s.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, in the classic Dark Angels colors.
Oh man, the old bolt guns with the magazine up front, they're hilarious.
He's even got die written on one of them. Classic.
Yep.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Love it.
Fantastic stuff there. Awesome. So this is all prepping for the Slow Death Games Fest that's being run out in San Diego in September. Steve's got a whole bunch of Rogue Trader style scenarios that he's doing running.
Very cool.
Definitely cool stuff.
So awesome.
Awesome. So that is it for minis from the Facebook community group. And we get to say that next week on the show, we have Sam Gallagher, who is one of the co-hosts of Gondor Calls for Ale, which is a podcast about the Lord of the Rings, Middle-earth strategy battle game. So Sam is going to be joining us. Sam sent a bunch of different funny photos for his.
It's a very he was like he decided to go coquettish ingenue as his like his photo of choice.
So I think it works out well. But Sam will be joining us and we'll be talking Lord of the Rings just prior to Nova next week.
Nice.
So we're excited about that. So there we go. We have reached the end of the show. episode 4 of season 5. My goodness, we're getting right up there.
We are. Eric, thank you so much for hanging out with us, man. It's been a blast, like, you know, getting to catch up and see what you're up to and see some of the cool stuff. And anybody who liked Eric, the stuff that we showed, use the link down below or just look up Eric's Hobby Workshop on Facebook. You can find it there. I'm sure you can just Google it.
On YouTube as well.
Yeah, YouTube is
an important place to go to. Make sure you go there, subscribe, like all the videos, comment on
do
them.
all the things. Do all the things.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's been a blast.
Excellent. Definitely super cool, and it'll be cool to hang out and grab a beer at Nova in a couple of weeks' time. And I really hope you enjoy the show. It's gonna be good. I think.
I haven't. I think this is my third Nova, but this is the first one in the new
venue
location. Yeah, the new.
venue. Okay. Right.
What's the name of the place now?
It's the Washington Hilton.
Oh, I thought the center had its own like name or whatever, but
no, it's all in the Washington Hilton, and the Washington Hilton is also known as the Hinckley Hilton, because just outside there's a little plaque where you can find.
God, that's where Hinckley shot Reagan, and then he came up with his Twinkie defense.
Yeah, I know nothing more than the little plaque, and it doesn't mention the Twinkie defense there.
So as someone who went to school for criminal justice, one of the cases that we studied was like people always talk about pleading insanity. So Hinckley and his lawyer, when they went to court, part of their defense was that Hinckley is a diabetic and he had eaten a bunch of Twinkies and the sugar made him like freak out. So they called it the Twinkie defense. But the idea is that he was not in his right state of mind because he had eaten too much sugar. And I was like, yeah, I'd like it to this day. I'm like, that's insane that a lawyer was like, let's pitch this to the judge and see if this like works.
Won't go anywhere.
I'll try anything, I guess, eh? Yeah. That's awesome. I didn't know that.
Fantastic. Okay, Jake, do you want to close this out?
Yeah, for sure. Again, a huge thank you to Eric for being here. Another big shout out to our season sponsor, the Army Painter. Thank you, everybody, for sending stuff in. We always love looking at your stuff. Keep working on stuff. Keep chipping away. If anybody is bringing stuff to enter at Nova Open, you've got another week to basically get stuff done. And then you can, I think Dave said you can enter online if you're going to. You can also register there if you are bringing something to enter. But until then, keep chipping away. If you guys have any questions, let us know. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Please share us somewhere where people might see us that haven't seen us before. And as always, do not forget to build, paint, play.
Shut up and sit down.